said, we have created this world for them. Now we have to face it. So what she meant by that is whatever those limiting beliefs that we see in younger generation, it's definitely because of the environment they're living in.
Tapi kalau itu dianggap sebagai kegagalan oleh sistem atau lingkungan, maka pribadi yang bersangkutan akan menganggap bahwa aku tuh nggak boleh lelah, aku tuh nggak boleh capek. Capek dan lelah itu salah dan tanda kelemahan.
Hi everyone, welcome to REWRITTEN. This is a space where we question systems that have been normalized for years, especially when they stop serving the people inside them. Hi everyone, my name is Naja. I'm a Jakarta Academics alumna, and today we're going to have a very honest conversation about education. So it's going to be serious. Hold your breath, but not for too long. Dan sebelum kita mulai, I'm gonna have a little disclaimer. Saya ingin memperjelas satu hal. Percakapan hari ini bukan tentang menyalahkan individu, sekolah, atau institusi tertentu. Diskusi ini bertujuan untuk memahami apakah sistem pendidikan yang kita miliki saat ini masih benar-benar melayani kebutuhan dan realitas siswa di masa kini. And to help us explore this topic, we need different perspectives. And I am very honored. I am joined by two guests who bring very important insights. We have Mr. Sam, the CEO of Jakarta Academics, and also, fun fact, one of my former teachers. And we also have Ms. Jovita Maria Ferliana, a psychologist who works closely with families. And before we dive in, could you guys please briefly introduce yourself? Maybe starting with Ibu Jo. Silakan.
Hai, saya Jovita Maria Ferliana, biasa dipanggil Jovita, dan saya adalah psikolog anak, remaja, dan keluarga.
Mr. Sam?
Hi, my name is Sam, and I'm basically a teacher, but I have also a big responsibility of looking after this institution called Jakarta Academics.
Right. So let's begin our first segment that I would like to call the system we don't question. So from the outside, we always see the school, it still looks the same, like from decades ago or 100 years ago, it still looks the same. The classrooms, the exams, and the achievements. Tapi kalau kita lihat lebih dalam lagi nih, agak beda ceritanya. This is when I talk to people my age, ngobrol sama teman-teman seusia aku malah lebih muda malah. And the conversation that we always talk about is, aduh capek. Tapi capeknya is not physically capek ya. Physically capek, tidur udah selesai. Tapi mentally and emotionally, we cannot just sleep on it. Nah, and I also came across several global research, and one of it I found from this global institution or global education organization called OECD, and they said that while the world that the students are preparing for are changing very fast, but the school system are not changing as fast as the world is. Contoh, kayak kita sekarang lebih fokus ke AI, ke robot. But we do see a majority of schools, they still use traditional methods with the whiteboards, with the books. And it kind of feel exhausting. Karena kalau kita keluar dari sekolah, all we see is gadgets, all we see is robots. But then kalau kita masuk ke sekolah, it still feel old, right? So I would like to ask this question to you, Mr. Sam. From your experience as an educator, what do you think the current education system often misunderstands about students today?
Right. Well, to understand any system, I believe we need to go back to the origin of that system, how it started, why it was started in the first place, right? And our current academic education system, it wasn't started to fulfill the needs of this world, the world that we're living in, right? It was started, in fact, to fulfill the needs of that world, which was 17th and 18th century, when the industrialization was growing. And at that time, definitely, we had a very good vision that in order to produce more, we need to train our people. And someone thought that why don't we train since the young age, So someone created kindergarten and the school system, and then you go to the college, and by the time you graduate, you are a ready workforce. Now, if we look at the past for the last 2-3 decades, or especially now, of course, we see there's a huge shift. Just like Definitely. What you said in terms of technology and the world that we live in. So we really need to question, is the system that has been around for 200, 300 years ago, is it still relevant or not, right? Now, if we're speaking of misunderstood about the system, then definitely we need to look into both sides. What is the need of this future generation? And also, what characteristics are we dealing with, which is, of course, the future generation or the current generation, right? I'll give you an example. For instance, if I ask a question to my father, let's say, he would say, I achieved things in my life in a very hard way. And if I ask the same question to my daughter, who is 13 years old, she would say, I can find the easy way to achieve things, right? So we're dealing with an entirely different generation using the same system. So we need to work a lot in order to change the needs of fulfill the needs of this younger generation and the future generation. Yeah.
Right. I think that makes sense because as you say, it's like 200-300 tahun yang lalu, and it's still ongoing, and some of the schools still follow the same concept, the same method as it is in 200-300 years ago. So hence how students feel stressed out, because the students now and the students back then, it's very different, and how they provide the education back in 200-300 years ago, it's all the same for all around the world. Tapi di dunia ini kan people are different, right? And also if we look at a comparative, kalau kita bandingin sama salah satu negara in Finland, their approach is actually very different than how it is in traditional school. So they're changing as fast as the world is, because ranking and grades is actually, I can say, dikaitkan dengan sekolah. So if you go to school, ranking and nilai or grades are number one. That's how you should achieve, right? That's what you should achieve. Tapi kalau di Finland, they focus on problem solving, they focus on teamwork, so the kids feel very relaxed instead of stressed. So they feel like, oh yeah, I need this in the future. Even if after they graduate, they don't see their grades and ranks anymore. They don't see your position in high school. Do you get number 1 in your class? No. So in your work, you need to see your skills, your problem solving skills, your teamwork skills. So I guess that is very important. Nah, kalau menurut Ibu Jo sendiri bagaimana? Secara psikologis, apa dampaknya kalau siswa terus hidup di sistem yang fokusnya cuma di nilai, di ranking, dan ujian saja?
Ya, kalau siswa yang hidup di sistem yang memang selalu melihat dari segi ujian, nilai, dan ranking, maka yang akan terjadi adalah bukan hanya anak mengalami tertekan secara akademik, tapi juga itu mempengaruhi bagaimana dia memandang dirinya sendiri. Karena anak yang selalu ingin mencapai yang terbaik, tertinggi nilainya, karena selalu mengejar score, mengejar ranking, itu dia akan mengalami bahwa oke, di satu sisi aku bisa nih menghadirkan atau mendapatkan nilai yang baik. Tapi pada suatu saat dia mengalami penurunan, misalnya entah karena satu dan lain hal, nilainya turun, maka dia akan merasa dirinya gagal. Dia merasa bahwa aku kalah nih, karena aku nggak bisa mencapai good score seperti yang kemarin-kemarin. Nah, kalau ini terjadi secara terus-menerus, maka anak akan mengalami kecemasan dan juga ketakutan. Nah, makanya anak-anak yang hidup di dalam sistem yang terus-menerus seperti ini, dia akan merasa bahwa aku tuh takut gagal. Karena kalau aku gagal, maka aku kalah. Aku juga malu sama diri aku sendiri, dan aku nggak bisa mencapai gambaran yang utuh dari diri aku, karena udah terlanjur persepsi dia adalah aku pinter maka aku berharga, gitu ya kan. Nah, jadi kalau sekali lagi ini diteruskan, maka yang terjadi adalah anak gak hanya menghadapi kecemasan pada saat ini. Maka kita bisa lihat anak kalau dengan sistem seperti ini, dia akan cemas pada saat menghadapi ujian. Kemudian dia akan sangat stres tuh kalau ngerjain tugas, karena harus tugasnya ada aja yang dia rasa kurang gitu kan. Terus dia itu punya perfectionist tapi tidak diimbangi dengan emotionally yang matang gitu. Jadi rapuh secara emosional, tapi hasilnya memang perfect gitu. Nah, ini dalam jangka panjang memang hasilnya sih yang dia tampilkan tuh bisa bagus. At the end dia bisa tuh dapat academic score yang memuaskan gitu kan. Tapi yang berbahaya adalah dia menyimpan kecemasan kronik dan juga ketakutan kronik, dan ini bisa berdampak berdampak pada saat di dunia kerja ataupun di kehidupan dewasa dia nantinya, pada saat dia selalu menekankan itu, aku harus menjadi yang terbaik, kalau enggak aku gagal dan sebagainya. Jadi dia akan merasa dia tidak bisa mengalami kegagalan, padahal di dunia kerja ataupun dewasa yang survive adalah yang dia bisa memaknai kegagalan, bisa bangkit dari kegagalan dan punya daya tahan atau resiliensi yang bagus.
Kayaknya Ibu Ju kayak lagi ngomongin saya deh. I feel very close to this answer because like a little backstory, I grew up merasa ranking dan grades itu semuanya. Jadi aku tuh kalau misalnya nggak dapet ranking 1, I would cry. I would be very disappointed, I would be very stressed gitu kan. Apalagi kalau misalnya setelah ujian tuh kan kita review ya paper ya. And I would feel very stressed when I see my friend's score is higher than mine. And I would like debate with the teacher, could you give me some leniency? Could you give me like, just one more?
I remember that.
Yeah, that's me. But when it was your time, it's already been minimized, sir. Back then, I would fight with the teacher. Like, no matter what it is, I have to get that score. And up until when I was in grade 7, my grades went down. I don't know why. I felt demotivated. Itu aku berasa banget nilai aku tuh turun seturun-turunnya. And I was like, I went from number 1 to like number 5. And itu I was very stressed. And I wanted to cry. And then my mom was like, why did you get number 5? I don't know. I couldn't give an answer. Karena gimana aku mau jawabnya? Kenapa aku dapat nomor 5? Jadi it's like they're putting the blame on me. Because like they have expectations on me kan. So that is why I feel like that is not a good system anymore when it impacts our mental health gitu. And that's why when a system struggles to adapt, right? Karena sekarang student udah nggak mau mikir lagi soal ranking dan nilai. Mereka maunya lebih dari itu, skills kan. Mereka memerlukan, bukan mau lagi, mereka memerlukan. But then the system right now doesn't provide that, and hence there's a gap. There's a gap, and that stresses the students out. Nah, and that stress sering dikaitkan dengan disiplin. Nah, disiplin ini sendiri juga dikaitkan dengan strict rules, long study hours. It was like I just graduated and I just like got my memories back and I was like, oh ya, 8 jam hanya belajar, tapi resultnya nomor aja gitu. And then I don't see like, do I use the exams that I had? Do I use it in the future? I don't think so, right? Jadi padahal dari riset psikologi sendiri, constant pressure, even from expectations juga nggak selalu bikin siswa jadi lebih kuat atau lebih termotivasi, ya nggak sih Ibu Jo? Justru malah bisa bikin kita anxiety, demotivated, dan proses belajar malah jadi terganggu. Yang dari awalnya kita ingin belajar, lama-lama jadi kayak ya udah deh gitu, ya udah apa aja deh gitu. Dan menurut Ibu Jo sendiri, kapan sih sebenarnya disiplin berhenti membantu dan mulai berdampak negatif kepada siswa sendiri?
Ya, disiplin itu penting, disiplin itu perlu, dan anak itu butuh struktur. Tapi disiplin akan menjadi negatif kalau disiplin tidak lagi fungsinya untuk mendidik, tapi untuk mengontrol. Nah, ini akan menjadi negatif di situ. Kalau kita lihat disiplin itu yang positif kayak gimana sih? Contohnya kita menetapkan jam belajar, ada namanya konsisten juga dalam hal aturan. Kemudian kalau kita kasih konsekuensi, ya konsekuensinya itu diimbangi dengan penjelasan yang empatik gitu ke anak. Jadi anak itu tahu kenapa aku harus melakukan ini, dan kalau misalnya aku menyimpang konsekuensinya apa, dan itu akan mengarah ke tanggung jawab dia karena dia paham betul. Nah, tapi untuk disiplin yang negatif atau yang berdampaknya kurang baik adalah apabila anak itu langsung dilabel atau dihukum tanpa mau mendengar pendapat dia, tanpa mau mendengar apa yang dia alami, kenapa sampai itu terjadi gitu. Dan kemudian apabila anak memang merasa bahwa emosinya udah nggak penting di sini dan pendapat dia udah nggak penting. Nah, kalau sampai itu terjadi, maka disiplin ini memang harus dievaluasi karena berarti tidak berjalan dengan baik gitu. Nah, kalau kita lihat anak itu kalau dia paham kenapa dia harus melakukan itu dan ini, maka dia akan melakukan dengan sendirinya tanpa perlu ada orang yang mengawasi. Karena dia tahu esensi disiplin ini untuk tanggung jawab pribadinya dan untuk kebutuhan dia serta kepentingan dia. Bukan karena dia takut sama seseorang atau bukan dia takut sama suatu sistem tertentu. Nah, ini yang penting. Jadi disiplin ini harus terinternalisasi dalam diri si anak ini. Nah, jadi pertanyaannya balik lagi, secara kesimpulan, kapan sih disiplin ini dinyatakan sudah nggak efektif lagi? Ya tadi, kalau membuat anak itu menjadi takut. Nah, kapan itu menjadi efektif? Kalau disiplin itu memang membuat anak sadar dan terinternalisasi dalam diri sendiri, dan dia melakukan itu karena dia tahu bahwa ini berguna dan penting buat dirinya.
Wow. Quote of the day. Mr. Sam, what's your take on Ibu Jovita's point of view?
Actually, everything I would wanted to say, that's what Ibu Jovita has explained. Of course, her expertise in psychology, and for me, discipline is everything, actually. Even one of the quotes that I admire from Muhammad Ali, who said, I hated every minute of my training, but I had to remind myself to keep on going. I rephrase the quote, of course, but the point is, you're not going to enjoy the process. That's the reality, right? But what has happened is when we look at the discipline, we see it as something very difficult and not so fun thing, right? But as a human, we do feel fulfilled when we're more disciplined, right? Naja, you are the perfect example to use over here. So I want to ask you, actually,
Yes.
You had the days when you spend your time probably doing nothing, scrolling all day, versus the day when you were busy, you studied long hours. When did you feel most fulfilled?
Oh, I feel more fulfilled when I'm doing nothing, honestly. but then yeah, that's like a reward. But then if I'm working or if I'm studying, and I have the result at the end, that makes me feel fulfilled.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
exactly.
So on that day you had the purpose to do
Right.
something, right?
True.
So what we need as a human being, of course, a reason to do anything.
Yeah.
And I think the school systems, the teachers, they need to really understand that discipline doesn't mean the rules only. That's something that you can dominate the classroom, or as a parent, you ask your child to do something just because you want it, without thinking the actual reason behind it. That's a very human nature. So I think we need to constantly remind ourselves that discipline can only work when it is a purpose driven.
Right, true.
So when I'm talking to the student, if I say, oh, you have to study because you need to get good score, right? It doesn't work, but when I give the picture, the vision that, okay, why it is important, like it's a very common question student ask. In fact, Naja, you have mentioned that, that all the theories that I study, what is it for, right? Well, you can see that when you think in that way. What is it for? Okay, students come to us and ask us, I'm studying quadratic equations in mathematics. What is the use? I don't need that, right? Well, the mathematics isn't learned for only day-to-day use. It is learned to train your brain for solving the complex problem. And who would disagree to that? When you tell students why you need to study maths. So there has to be a proper communication and reasoning behind why we do something, right? You get up every day morning and you exercise, you have morning routine. You need to coach the students, especially this generation, that why? Because this is a very different generation than what we ever had in the past. So they need to know the reason. So purpose driven versus dominance discipline, these are two different things, and we need to practice more purpose-driven discipline so that people or youngsters, they understand, okay, I have to do this because of this and that. Yeah.
So, if you were to redefine discipline in school, how would you redefine it?
Redefining, wow, okay, that's a
Yeah.
tough one. I don't think I would change the definition of discipline, but I would definitely change the mindset of my student, the way we see it. We shouldn't be seeing discipline as, again, something hard thing to do, but it is something that can make us who we are. As a human being. That's the way I would like my students to see it and really practice the discipline. But unfortunately, in education system, disciplines are also taken in a totally different way.
Yeah, true.
For example, it's a very common that in traditional schools, and because maybe they have to manage a large number of students, so there are lots of rules and regulation, which also, in a way, limits the creativity of students. So we have to really differentiate that when we want someone to be disciplined, in what ways and what context. That's something that I would do. Yeah.
I think that's a very interesting redefinition. And I think what's interesting is that the pressure itu lama-lama dianggap normalisasi. It's become normalized nowadays. No matter how much we think discipline and pressure is normalized, we can't change it. And if we compare it with, and again, Finland, as they do problem solving and collaboration, the students feel more terkoneksi dengan sekolah. They feel like, oh yeah, we're a family. But then back in traditional school here, I don't think so. They feel like there's a distance between them. I believe so, yeah. If we were to compare with the traditional school here in Indonesia, and that makes me feel that there should be a change. But then the change itself took a long time. Kalau misalnya kita minta perubahan sekarang pun, ya kita tidak bisa dilaksanakan dalam waktu mungkin 2-3 tahun ke depan.
Yeah.
So, guys, take note. Redefine discipline. Discipline should not be associated with trust. Discipline should be associated with something that you have a purpose. Okay, we've talked about stress, we've talked about discipline, but there's one thing we haven't talked about, and it's a reality that many students experience, but they rarely talk about openly because the world loves to judge. So here's the reality, sir, for you as a teacher. Many students are not failing academically, but mentally they're actually trying to endure the pressure that comes with always having to perform. Because like academically, they still nilainya masih bagus, performance okay, tugas masih jalan, they still go to school, but mentally, emotionally, have you guys ever questioned us? So, but like in some of the most effective education systems, the students would strive if they feel supported, they feel engaged, and they feel like there's a connection with the teacher. But unfortunately, it doesn't happen to all systems around the world. It's not the same. And whenever we feel like, oh, I'm so tired of school, I'm so tired of assignments, and the only response we get is, ya udah, just push harder. So, Mr. Sam, when you see students disengaged or burn out or even demotivated, I think I have said that to you multiple times, sir, I feel demotivated. Do you see that as a student problem or a system problem?
Right, student problem or a system problem. Well, if we are speaking of a particular age, which is of course, young learners, adolescents, teenagers, then definitely system or environment shapes them, right? And actually, once I was talking to an expert, just like Ms. Jo, where we were discussing about Gen Z and the limiting beliefs Gen Z has. And she said one thing that kind of stuck with me. She said, we have created this world for them. Now we have to face it. So what she meant by that is whatever those limiting beliefs that we see in younger generation, it's definitely because of the environment they're living in, because of the surroundings they have. So it is a system that needs to be aware of that. If something is happening to a child, it is not happening because he or she want to be like that, it has to do a lot with the surrounding that child is growing up. And yes, if we are speaking of the academic pressure and burnouts, it is definitely has to do with the system as well, because there's this argument where we talk in our academic world that standardized exams, grades, are they really important to learn and develop yourself and gain the knowledge, and it may or it may not, right? So at the school level, we would struggle with this dilemma that okay, in the classroom, I want my students to just learn and enjoy the process, right? I teach economics, for example. I want them to understand how economy works in the world, right? But when it comes to applying to the university, it doesn't matter how your classroom was, or how many things you learn. What matters is the grades in your A levels, So that's where I think we're having this conflict of interest, where one side we're talking about actual education, actual learning, and on the other side we give a lot of emphasis or value to the credentials. So if any student is going through that process, it is definitely because of the system that we have created, and it is a question that we need to ask: what do we want for our children?
Right.
Yeah.
That's very true. And when the students feel demotivated, they feel like they're gonna get burnout, right? They're gonna get burnout, but then the burnout, it impacts their grades. Jadi kalau misalnya contoh aku dari awalnya striving, and then I had a problem, demotivated, and then it shows in my grades. Tapi itu nggak pernah ditanya, are you okay? Or even if I'm doing the best as I could, they still blame me. They still blame the students for failing on their exams. Padahal sebenarnya they feel tired, they feel burnout, they don't have any motivation. Jadi kalau misalnya dari Ibu Jo sendiri, secara psikologis kalau burnout dianggap sebagai kegagalan pribadi untuk siswa itu gimana ya?
Ya, jadi kalau burnout dianggap sebagai kegagalan pribadi siswa, maka yang terjadi bagi si siswa adalah dia akan terus menyalahkan dirinya sendiri. Jadi self blaming. Nah, pada saat dia terus menyalahkan dirinya, maka yang terjadi ini ada beberapa hal nih. Jadi yang pertama, dia tuh mulai merasa malu dengan kelelahannya sendiri. Padahal namanya lelah kan setiap orang itu wajar ya. Namanya juga manusia, kita pasti ngerasa lelah. Ada saat tertentu memang kita ngerasa capek, kita pengen istirahat, dan itu kan normal sebetulnya. Nah, tapi kalau itu dianggap sebagai kegagalan oleh sistem atau lingkungan, maka pribadi yang bersangkutan akan menganggap bahwa aku tuh gak boleh lelah, aku tuh gak boleh capek dan lelah itu salah dan tanda kelemahan gitu kan. Nah, jadi akhirnya dia merasa bahwa dirinya itu tidak diakui sebagai manusia gitu. Nah, kemudian yang terjadi apalagi kalau memang ini terjadi terus menerus, jadi si siswa tersebut akan melemahkan kepekaan dia dalam menangkap sinyal-sinyal tubuhnya. Bener nggak? Najwa pernah nggak misalnya kayak sekolah nih, atau kemudian dalam seharian itu banyak sekali yang kamu kerjakan, terus kamu capek tapi kamu akhirnya kayak repress, dan akhirnya kamu udah kayak udahlah nggak usah dirasa-rasain.
Iya. Jadi ya udah jalanin aja.
Iya kan?
Tapi tanpa rasa apapun.
Iya,
Iya.
Udah kayak mati rasa gitu kan. Nah, itu karena sudah akumulatif tuh capeknya, lelahnya, dan ngerasa bahwa aku nggak boleh nunjukin itu. Dan akhirnya kayak kamu men-shutdown, mematikan semua sinyal-sinyal tubuhmu supaya kamu nggak boleh kelihatan lelah seperti itu. Dan itu bahaya. Karena kalau itu diteruskan, maka kamu nggak cuma sakit secara fisik tapi juga secara mental, ya kan? Orang butuh istirahat, orang butuh waktu rehat, orang butuh juga me time untuk melakukan hal-hal yang memang buat dia itu bisa relax dan santai dan istirahat. Dan sekali lagi, kalau memang terus-menerus menyalahkan diri, mematikan sinyal tubuhnya, dan kemudian merasa bahwa dirinya itu nggak dianggap, dan kemudian merasa bahwa ini semua adalah salah aku dan aku nggak boleh menunjukkan itu semua, maka selamat yang terjadi adalah itu adalah resep yang sempurna untuk mencapai depresi di masa remaja atau dewasa bahkan.
Help. Help. Oh begitu.
Iya.
Terus like, soalnya banyak juga siswa merasa itu ya normal jadinya kan.
Iya,
Karena
dinormalisasi.
sekelilingnya ya tidak menganggap itu sebagai suatu hal yang serius.
Iya, bener banget.
Jadi bagaimana itu?
Padahal
ya?
kan perasaan kamu wajar, perasaan kamu valid.
Yeah, there's one thing we've been observing with the students, which is definitely kind of perception about your interests and your motivation and what we call passion, right? We need to train this younger generation that motivation is a choice you make, you know, and there is a difference between, of course, physical burnout. So everyone gets tired, everyone gets exhausted, and we need the physical rest, right? Versus the mental burnout, right? I personally don't think that if you're doing something that you really enjoy doing, that you're going to get mental burnout, because you're enjoying that, right? But at the same time, no matter what profession you choose or what activity you choose that you enjoy doing, you will reach a point where you will get tired, where you will feel exhausted. One example that I would like to mention here is, so at our school we use this unique kind of approach to our curriculum, where we allow our students to work on a project which they are, or at least they think that they are interested in. Okay, in fact we call it passion project. So what you are passionate about. So students get to choose what they are motivated for or interested in, and we give them the time and coaching and guideline to make that project a reality. What happens many times that at the beginning students are very excited. Someone will say, okay, I want to write a book, or I want to create a podcast, I want to do that. But when the things get harder, they realize something different, So one of the students just recently came to me that, Mr. Sam, can I not do my passion project? And I was like, why? You're passionate about. You're supposed to not say that, right? So I think that is the training, What that means is that many times what we assume that we're passionate about, maybe not, right? So it's a journey that you constantly have to dig in, and if you find what you enjoy doing, I think you're going to be fine. You're not going to talk about burnouts, you're not going to talk about work-life balance and this, because you enjoy doing that. When you don't do it, then you're going to feel down. Oh, I'm not doing this today, I want to do it. So that process needs to be there, and I think schooling is the right place to start or to begin with that, and earlier we teach our students this is the way things are going to happen with you when it comes to your interest and your passion. I think they're going to make the right decisions to choose proper paths and careers in their life.
I think that's very interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting. A passion project. But why back in my day they don't have that? Why didn't you develop that back when I was a student, sir? So yeah, I think that's very interesting when we have a subject, or I think a curriculum or a project where we can work with something that we really love. I think that will drive our motivation. But in reality, not every school have those, right? They still follow the usual traditional curriculum, and so that's why I say in the beginning, we're enduring. So if a significant number of students are barely enduring the system, so it's also important for the school or the system to consider the cost of the endurance itself, not only physically but also mentally. Karena karena tadi kita ngomongin soal ranking dan nilai ya. Kita sering banget celebrate achievements. If you get your top 3, your 100 A stars, By the way, I got A from my A levels. Yeah, I got a lot of celebration because of that. But yeah, we always celebrate achievement. But have we ever asked the students the cost or the emotional cost behind it? Have you ever recognized it? Karena sejujurnya kayaknya kita tidak pernah. Karena data dari WHO-nya sendiri, World Health Organization, it also shows that anxiety is one of the biggest problem in Gen Zs or youth nowadays. Jadi kalau misalnya untuk Ibu Jo, apa dampaknya kalau anxiety dan burnout dianggap sebagai hal yang wajar? Karena ya udah wajar aja kamu burn out, tapi kan result kamu bagus. Nah, gimana tuh?
Iya, jadi kalau memang itu terjadi, maka dampaknya adalah si siswa atau si anak bersangkutan akan juga terlumpuhkan empatinya karena dia tidak terbiasa untuk merasakan apa yang memang ada di dalam dirinya gitu ya. Misalnya contohnya tadi setuju banget tuh dengan Mr. Sam bahwa memang benar sih kadang memang ada waktunya kan kita tuh lelah, capek, kita merasa cemas dan takut. Di satu sisi itu memang valid dan kita itu boleh kok, maksudnya ada di state itu, ya kan? Nah, tapi di sini kita juga perlu guidance kan. Makanya di sini kayak guru-gurunya tuh memang jago banget gitu ya dalam kayak misalnya memberikan coach pada si siswanya gitu supaya bahwa oke, itu wajar, take your time, tapi kamu harus bangkit lagi gitu kan. Jadi bisa memotivasi juga gitu. Tapi tidak meniadakan bahwa memang perasaan kamu tuh penting. Nah, kalau anxiety dan burnout yang hal yang wajar dan kemudian tidak dipedulikan, maka si anak ini juga akan merasa bahwa emosi aku nggak penting, diri aku nggak penting, aku juga nggak berharga, seperti itu. Nah, tapi sebaliknya dengan sistem yang memang dia open dan terbuka untuk para siswanya, kemudian guru-guru juga yang sangat dekat dengan siswanya, siswa tuh merasa kayak, wah, aku diperhatikan ya. Oke, aku tahu, aku lelah, aku capek, aku cemas, aku takut, tapi aku bisa bangkit lagi gitu.
That's true. Karena soalnya juga banyak ya orang tua yang kalau misalnya kita coba approach gitu, kita bilang aduh capek dia belajar gitu, and then they will start to like, dulu mama gini. Back in my day
lebih parah.
Iya, dulu aku harus berenang ke sekolah gitu kan. Aku harus melewati jembatan yang cuman satu tiang doang gitu, satu kayu
jalannya
doang.
2 kilo.
Jalan 2 kilo jalan kaki gitu. Kan jadinya it's a competition, membanding-bandingkan. Itu gimana tuh Ibu Juk?
Nah, ini untuk orang tua ya, itu tuh nggak fair, wah ya, nggak adil gitu ya. Kalau misalnya kita menyamakan zaman dulu sama zaman sekarang, jelas udah beda. Terus kalau misalnya dulu si orang tua kita harus nyebrangin sungai 2 kilo, bawa kantong plastik, nggak pakai sepatu, terus emang kita sekarang juga harus kayak gitu? Enggak banget kan? Dan kalau anak dibilang kamu tuh lebih mending dari kita dulu, nggak bisa. Mereka tuh nggak pernah ngerasain ada di zaman itu. Jadi jangan minta mereka tuh berempati sama kita di masa itu, nggak banget gitu. Yang ada malah si orang tua ini yang harus down to the earth kan, lihat sekarang itu seperti apa sih masanya, teknologi udah canggih.
Nah, itu mereka sering bilang, kamu enak banget, kamu bisa searching di mana-mana. Mama harus ke Kalimantan buat cari lihat ini. Kalau kamu
tahu nggak tuh sebenarnya mereka tuh ngiri. Iya kan? Mereka ngiri dengan semua kenyamanan yang ada sekarang, ya kan? Tapi kan bukan berarti sekarang itu nggak ada tantangan. Tantangannya jauh lebih besar dari zaman dulu. Ya kan, dengan arus deras sosial media, dampak, pengaruh, kemudian kayak membanding-bandingkan satu sama lain, kemudian bagaimana kita harus kayak punya literasi digital yang baik, itu kan suatu tantangan yang justru lebih tinggi atau lebih sulit dibandingkan zaman dulu. Nah, jadi sekali lagi bukan untuk diperbandingkan. Jadi jangan lagi ngasih contoh yang zaman dulu ya kan, tapi ngelihat yang zaman sekarang. Dong.
Right. So like, and also, so for Mr. Sam, when the students feel burnout, right, and disengagement, the emotional costs are being sacrificed here. So, what do you think the school should do or responsible for? What responsibilities should the school take beyond maintaining just good results, good reputation? What do you think?
Yeah. Well, if I could change things in the system, because when it comes to institutional level, it is not easy. We can sit around and talk all the day about whether it's a good idea or not to have exams, results, nilai, and all that, right? But at the end of the day, the whole ecosystem is connected to each other. So if you're a teacher or school, you can't really practice things out of that ecosystem, right? Because if you do, it's not going to work, right? I can teach my students whole day about how wonderful the economic world is, and discuss and all that, but I know that at the end they need to go through the exam. I know that at the end they have to get the good grades so that they can get into the top universities, right? So that's the ecosystem we have created. So changing that itself is a challenge, and I think policymaker has a lot to do to that. But if we're speaking of I want to actually go back to, exactly the point what Ms. Jo has said about parenting, because I'm a father and I behave the same way that what you have mentioned. We try to.
Okay.
Oh my God, sir.
I am in this case, I'm
You're
actually
guilty.
taking a side of parents, because it is not easy to have that kind of awareness and being mindful all the time when you're a parent. When you're a parent and you see your kid is sitting around and reading comics for 2 hours, you do want to tell that kid that, hey, get up and tidy up your room. That's definitely a human nature and normal thing.
Yeah.
And, whether it's a good or not, I'm not sure, but I think communication has a lot to do with this, right? So I could scold my daughter all day, hey, don't do this, don't do that. But there's this thing just happened by accidentally, So my daughter, last year she picked up one book, which title of the book is something like Essential Skills for Girls. And the book is about having positive habits, how you tidy up your place and what kind of skills you need to learn as a girl. And just last week I asked her, because her room was really messy, and I asked her, honey, you have this book, Essential Skills for Girls. When was the last time you read and applied the principles, the things that you learned? And she could realize, I could say, I could have just scolded her, I could have just get mad at her. Hey, why your room is messy, which I do sometimes, and I'm guilty for that.
Guilty.
But when I asked her about the book, and she was laughing, and she realized that, oh, I bought the book and I should read and I should follow. So I think it goes back to the coaching, right? How parents can actually talk to the kids.
Yes.
Train them for the life challenges, instead of putting our energy in comparing ourselves with, oh, this is how my life was, this is the comfort you got. Well, that's what you want for your kids. You want your kids to be comfortable, right?
Yeah.
You don't want your kids to struggle, but can you rephrase the things that you want to say? Can you put it in the way that they can understand? I think that's very important. I forgot the question. What was the question?
Yeah, and how should the school be responsible for the emotional cost that the students have been putting on for their school, instead of just maintaining good results and good reputation of the school itself?
Yeah, right, absolutely. So if there is one thing that schools should practice, is about not just evaluating students with their academics, which is how much you got in maths and science and English, but they should also evaluate with other important characteristics, such as resilience or adversity, how you can face the challenges in your life. I think if we can create a curriculum which can also evaluate students in terms of their mental strength, I think we're going to have a much better results. We're going to drop this increasing anxiety among the students, because school is the place where you can actually start coaching and teaching. You don't want to have a generation which is weak and doesn't want to do anything because the life is hard. You definitely want the generation to be stronger and face all kind of challenges. I think what is the gap? The gap is not that the students are weak. The gap is in the education, right? In telling. So when you tell me that I'm having burnouts, let's say, right? So how do I define burnouts? That's the very important thing. I support you, oh, you're having this burnout, and so, or I educate you, that's the fundamental difference we need to understand.
So, we've mentioned about the emotional costs that the students have to put in education. So, when the students begins to struggle emotionally, or they feel that the cost of learning is too high, right? Because there are a lot of students who feel very demotivated to the point that they don't even want to go to school. But that doesn't mean they want to stop learning. So they don't want to go to that specific school that's giving them a hard time. Hence, there's this term called alternative education. So, but then alternative education itu sering disalahpahami, because when another student, they feel like, oh, I want to change school, I want to go to an alternative education that's not the same as traditional school, they will be labeled as weak. They feel like, oh, you can't handle traditional school, dia nggak kuat. And like they feel like you're just taking the easy way out. Everyone here struggles. Why are you taking the easy way out? So for Mr. Sam, how do you really define alternative education? Is it really the same as how people think?
Alternative education is basically everything that is not in traditional education or traditional school, right? And it has many variations. Actually, the concept or the term itself is quite new. In this last couple of decades, we've been seeing this trend where parents or educators, they have begun to realize that what we used to believe in, or what we used to assume, that in order to educate the students, you need to have a huge building, big classrooms with hundreds of students in it, right? That was the traditional belief, and that still continues today. But the question is that true? Is that how we learn? In fact, this is the kind of, funny thing in a way. Parents who send their kids to big schools, they are also the one who send their kids in tuition centers or have a private tutor. Now, if you think a big school with hundreds of students is the place where you can educate, why do you need a private tutor? Right? Why do you need a small classroom? What do you call bimbo? Right? Because the fact is, in the small scale is the only place where you can learn effectively. And I think that realization is growing in many parts of the world. In fact, in some developed countries, millions of students today, they do not study in traditional school. They study in alternative system, and the category has many different types. It could be homeschooling, where kids study with their parents or they have private tutors. It could be, online learning. It could be hybrid school. So there are so many forms. And in fact, in Jakarta Academics, what we do is definitely, having a small number of students in one class. I mean, Naja, you had that experience by yourself, where having that small numbers has helped you compared to what it would have been in the traditional schooling. So that's something that we believe in, and I think because it is so fundamental to us as a human, that we want to learn in a more personalized environment, and that is why I think this thing is continuing to grow, which is called alternative education.
Right. I think, and also in alternative education, they don't judge you based on your age, because like in traditional school ada requirement umur kan. Oh yeah, if you're in grade 1, you should be 6 or 7 years old. Tapi kalau misalnya di alternative education like me, in my class, I have a classmates who are older than me or maybe younger than me, but we have the same idea, or we have the same skills, or we have the same way of thinking. I think that's very interesting, because if you go to a traditional school and you hang out with the people only your age, kayak you're just growing up together, tapi ya gitu-gitu aja pemikirannya. Tapi kalau misalnya in the different ages, you can see, oh, from this older perspective, this is how you see it. From the younger perspective, this is how you see it. So we can have a very healthy discussions, especially when we work on assignments, like business and economics, for example. My friend have maybe a different perspective that I may not see, and maybe I have a different perspective that she may not see, which is very interesting. Then we can have one good results in the end. I think, and that's very important, because in traditional school, everyone will have to learn the same thing and have the same way of thinking. Even the teachers will ask you to follow that way of thinking. So the students don't have time to explore. I think that's very good kan secara mentally kan. Menurut Ibu Jo gimana? Kalau pendekatan belajar yang lebih fleksibel dan personalized ya, kalau seperti Jakarta Academics, itu bisa memulihkan nggak atau bisa cut ya nanti ya. Apakah pendekatan belajar yang lebih fleksibel bisa lebih sehat secara mental?
Ya, jadi pendekatan belajar yang lebih fleksibel dan personalized ini itu membuat anak itu akan mengerti tentang satu hal, yaitu bahwa dirinya itu berbeda dan dirinya unik. Dan itu penting banget untuk tahu bahwa itu normal dan itu tuh baik karena setiap orang memang punya keunikannya masing-masing. Jadi kamu tuh nggak harus sama orang lain gitu kan ya. Nah jadi kalau dia punya kesadaran tentang ini, nah maka dia juga tahu. Contohnya ada anak yang misalnya dia itu lebih masuk nih atau lebih cepat daya tangkapnya kalau dia dengan cara diskusi misalnya dibandingkan dia langsung baca sendiri, kan ada gitu. Tapi kalau begitu dia bandingin, oh berarti yang sukses tuh anak yang pinter itu harus yang baca doang nih, kan nggak cocok ya kan. Nah ada anak yang memang lewat diskusi, atau ada anak yang untuk dia bisa paham satu materi dia harus ulang dulu berkali-kali dengan beberapa kali membaca, tapi sekali dia paham itu nempel terus ya kan, ada yang kayak gitu. Tapi ada juga anak yang cuma sekali baca, 2 kali baca langsung masuk tuh, tapi nggak tahan lama ya kan. Dan itu nggak apa-apa, nggak untuk diperbandingkan. Bukan artinya anak yang sekali baca ngerti terus dia lebih baik, lebih pinter gitu daripada yang tadi bacanya berkali-kali tapi kemudian pemahamannya dalam dan tahan lama, kan nggak juga gitu. Jadi semua itu punya kelebihannya masing-masing gitu. Dan itu sekali lagi bukan untuk diperbandingkan, itu untuk diketahui dan dibanggakan terhadap diri sendiri. Nah sebenarnya itu sih yang memang bagus dan ada di sistem-sistem belajar yang memang menggunakan pendekatan belajar yang lebih fleksibel dan personalized ini. Dan intinya adalah lebih ke nanti untuk ke self-esteem, self-proudnya dia, sama kepercayaan dirinya dia tuh, ya kan? Dan ini kalau modal ini ada, maka di masa dewasa pada saat dia bekerja dan kemudian dalam kehidupan kedepannya, kalau dia punya hal-hal ini penting, dia akan bisa percaya sama dirinya dan bisa melakukan problem solving dengan baik karena dia tahu kekuatan dirinya itu apa. Tapi balik lagi, kalau semua tuh harus disamakan sama orang lain, ya kita kan selalu berasa diri kurang, bener gak sih? Karena tadi bener gak ada yang sama gitu. Nah kalau kita mau lihat dengan pendekatan ini, sebetulnya kita bisa masuk ke esensi pendidikan. Sebetulnya esensi pendidikan itu apa sih gitu kan? Sebetulnya esensi pendidikan itu kan membuat seseorang itu bisa memahami dirinya. Orang itu tahu bahwa apa yang dia peroleh itu bisa dibuat ataupun disumbangkan untuk kehidupan yang ada di sekitarnya atau orang lain yang ada di sekitarnya. Itu kan esensinya. Terus kemudian yang kedua, bahwa tujuan dari pendidikan itu melatih kemampuan gak cuma berpikir atau kognitif, tapi berpikir kemudian merasa, yaitu perasaan atau hati, dan juga bertindak. Jadi thinking, feeling, sama action itu harus jadi satu kesatuan. Dan itu bisa didapat dari sistem pendidikan belajar yang fleksibel dan personalized ini gitu. Kalau pendidikan yang terlalu kaku, mereka akan ngisinya cuma di kognitif doang. Biasa perasaannya kosong atau bahkan minim, dan apalagi tindakannya gitu kan. That's why makanya kalau kita lihat di dunia sekarang ini, kenapa ada orang yang begitu marah langsung mukul orang, marah keluarin senjata, ya kan, marah ngancurin barang, yaitu karena yang keisi cuma kognitif, secara perasaannya nggak terisi, makanya tindakannya juga seperti itu. Jadi ini sebetulnya pendidikan yang dialami pada saat kita misalnya SD, SMP, SMA gitu ya, atau primary, junior dan high school, itu kan sebetulnya kesinambungan. Kita dewasanya itu akan menjadi seperti apa, ya kita lihatnya dari yang ada sekarang ini. That's why memang penting banget untuk milih sekolah dengan pendekatan yang personal kalau menurut aku ya, personalized banget, supaya anak ini bisa tahu aku itu kelebihannya apa, aku itu memang good at apa, dan kemudian apa yang bisa aku berikan kepada masyarakat di sekitar aku.
That's very good. What do you think, Mr. Sam?
Yeah, I totally agree too, Ms. Jo. Absolutely.
Itu baru pertama kali aku dengar tuh the steps gitu, cognitive, feelings and action. That's very important takeaway. But unfortunately, we are in our last segment, which I actually have a lot more to ask to these two experts. But unfortunately, we're running out of time. I would like to ask the very last big question from the both of you.
Hi, sister.
In you guys' opinion, who is education really for? Maybe we can start off with Mr. Sam. Sambil Ibu Jo memikirkan jawabannya.
Well, who is education for? Well, education for everyone, and the way I see it, so our current education, because we're discussing about system, right? I think the current education system has worked very well in the last 200 300 years of the humanity that we have been able to grow and achieve things. With that system we have been able to go to the moon, and now we are on our way to go to the Mars as well, right? But at the same time, have we optimized the entire human talent with this system? The answer is no. We have actually left behind a lot of people because the system did not support their needs, right? So when I walk into the classroom, I really have to remind myself that who am I teaching to? If I'm walking into the classroom which has 20 students, right? Am I teaching to that first row of students, delivering my lesson and I'm done, or I'm really teaching to the entire class? Because the fact is 80% of the students in the classroom are the average students who need extra support and so on. So who education is for? It's for everyone, and we need to really rethink and come back to this idea that we must not create a new system that will leave people behind. If we can create a system which can bring everyone together and everyone can learn and grow, I think we will be having a very different world.
Absolutely. Kalau untuk Ibu Jo nih kayak pertanyaannya aku harus rephrase deh.
Waduh.
Who is education really for? Is it for the kids or is it for the parents? Karena kan Ibu Jo psikolog anak dan keluarga ya.
Yeah.
Jadi untuk siapa nih kira-kira sebenarnya?
Oke, sebetulnya ya, kalau ini misalnya susah ya, untuk siapa ya gitu ya. Nah, sebetulnya lebih ke kalau parents itu kan fasilitator ya kan. Dalam hal ini mereka ada untuk memang memfasilitasi anaknya dalam mengenyam pendidikan. Jadi sebetulnya pendidikan itu untuk ya anak gitu. Dan sekali lagi kalau memang untuk anak berarti kan harus melihat dari sisi si anak ini. Dan sekali lagi kalau di dunia zaman sekarang di mana teknologi udah canggih ya, nyari informasi juga dari Google, ChatGPT itu banyak banget gitu. Jadi kalau kita dulu, orang tua zaman dulu tuh ngebaca buku di perpustakaan, di toko buku ya kan, dapatnya itu sekian gitu. Nah untuk zaman sekarang sudah lebih dari sekian ya kan. Dia sekali googling, sekali ChatGPT udah keluar banyak. That's why pengetahuan atau wawasan tuh bukan hal yang susah lagi untuk zaman sekarang gitu. Yang susah apa? Ya itu yang memang harus dibentuk adalah karakternya. That's why memang pendidikan ini sangat penting nih buat si anak. Dan kalau kita lihat bahwa pendidikan untuk si anak berarti kan kalau memang tujuannya untuk anak ya berarti memang benar-benar kita harus melihat dari individuasi anak ini, benar nggak? Bisa jadi bahwa si anak ini nantinya punya karakter yang berbeda, punya daya tangkap yang berbeda, dan punya misalnya potensi atau bakat yang berbeda. Nah disitulah sebenarnya peran orang tua. Tapi sekali lagi sebetulnya kesuksesan, kita menilai kesuksesan belajar tuh apa sih? Kalau anak itu punya curiosity, ya kan, dia punya rasa ingin tahu yang terus berkembang, itu berarti sukses tuh belajarnya ya kan. Terus yang kedua dia punya creativity, dia bisa berkembang. Dia juga kemudian tadi seperti yang Najah katakan, bisa belajar dari semua orang gitu, bisa belajar dari guru, dari teman, dari anak yang lebih kecil bahkan sekalipun. Jadi semua orang yang ada di sekitar kita itu sebenarnya sarana pembelajaran kita gitu kan. Dan itu jadi sekali bisa didapatkan kalau memang dia sudah mengerti bahwa dirinya itu berharga gitu. Jadi dia bisa mendapatkan semua itu. Dan kalau memang itu sudah dicapai, nah berarti si anak ini yang terakhir adalah, dan ini adalah esensinya, dia bahagia belajarnya. Dia belajar tuh dengan happy, dengan bahagia. Dan kalau dia udah senang, dia bahagia belajar, maka tadi sekali lagi, apapun yang dihadapi nanti itu bisa dilakukan dengan baik. Dan kalau tadi pertanyaannya pendidikan buat siapa, ya memang sasarannya adalah buat si anak. Makanya kita nggak boleh egois ya, nggak boleh karena aku tuh gengsi nih ya kan, si anak aku harus masuk ke sekolah yang populer, yang ngantri, yang bahkan kalau misalnya semakin susah masuk di situ, aku semakin bangga nih sebagai orang tua kalau anak aku bisa. Enggak banget gitu. Jadi lebih ke turunin gengsinya. Lihat zaman sekarang, anak-anak itu semua punya potensi yang berbeda. Nah, jadi tadi aku juga sepakat sama pendapat Mr. Sam bahwa justru dengan lingkungan belajar yang jumlahnya itu nggak terlalu banyak, itu pembelajaran lebih efektif gitu. Karena memang benar-benar bisa sangat terperhatikan kan anak demi anak ini. Dan anak pun juga bisa belajar dengan happy karena merasa bahwa dirinya itu diakui keunikannya. Tapi ujung-ujungnya dengan anak itu sukses dan happy belajarnya, maka orang tua pun juga berdampak kan. Dia akan merasa bahwa aku tuh orang tua yang sukses loh, sudah bisa nyekolahin anakku dengan berhasil.
That's right. Jadi parents have to lower down your ego, okay? Prioritize your kids and not your ego. So I think that's a very important takeaway from the both of you, because you guys have a very different perspectives. One from an educator's perspective, another one is from a psychologist's perspective. Itu sangat penting, dan if you guys collaborate, that will be very good. Karena both are very important to the education system. And also education, last takeaway. My last words, everyone, listen carefully. Education shouldn't feel like something students survive. It should support them academically, emotionally, and as whole individuals. And alternative education isn't the future because it's trendy. I know some of you guys might think it's different and you guys are afraid of trying it, but you guys should try it. It's the future because students are asking for something different, and that question deserves to be taken seriously. I think that's a very important note, because adults seems to think that, we're still young, we know you better than you, but that's not. We have a different perspective and we should be heard. So I would like to thank Mr. Sam and Ms. Jovita for being here and to have this very healthy discussion. And
thank you, Naja.
Thank you. And I would like to thank all of you for watching this episode of Rewritten. Hope to see you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.